Okay. So I was saying that it is difficult for you to access a Grand Parent line from majority of the genetic companies in Africa. Not only in Africa, but also Europe. If you're able to access the GPs in a situation where the structure is lacking, there is a lot of questions. You have no guarantee that what you'll receive will be a high indexed GP because the genetic company is not sure whether there is structures to manage adulteration and also structure to manage payment of royalties. I think this background helps you to understand the usefulness of today's session. Now we will move ahead. Now, I try to generate data that is quite very conservative. The data is very conservative because we want to be a little more realistic. We all know that the population in East Africa is growing and is growing very rapidly. Of recent, Uganda's population is estimated at 50 million people. And I can tell you a few years ago, it was about 30 million people, 30-something million people. And by then we had statistics from FAO, from FAO, of the per capita consumption of 3.4 kilograms per person per year. I extracted data from FAO that is a little recent, 2021, and it is indicating 2.8 kilograms per person per year as Uganda's per capita consumption. Now, we still have a huge challenge with the data that we are using, most especially for these official communications in Africa. It is very hard to get data that you can fully trust. And the data that you can trust can be generated, I think, by yourself. If you're going to use third parties, it's sometimes difficult to access reliable data. I can tell you today, the per capita consumption of Uganda cannot be 2.8 kilograms per person per year. If it was once 3.4 kilograms per person per year, it must be more than this by now, because the population has increased and also the purchasing power has gone high. The migration from low income to middle class, has been happening and is still happening. The increase in population, the increase in the purchasing power, all this means that this data is not very reliable. But for purposes of this session, we can use it. Just take it that the need is far beyond what I'm showing you as official data. So, like I said, Uganda is now about 50 million people. Tanzania, about 68 million people. Rwanda, 14 million people. Burundi, 14. Kenya, 56 million people. South Sudan, 11 million people. Now, if you did some simple calculation in comparison to the per capita consumption, you realize that the pork need per country is around 140 metric tons for Uganda, 45,000 tons for Tanzania, 13,000 tons for Rwanda, 12,000 tons for Burundi, 23,000 tons for Kenya, and 115 tons for South Sudan. For your information, Kenya consumes quite less, but in the East African region, Kenya is the main exporter. You can go try to study that more. Kenya is the main exporter of pork in the East African region. So don't be surprised. They consume less locally, but I think Kenya exports pork to the rest of the East African region, most especially through Farmer's Choice. Now, if you did some simple mathematics, you'll land on these figures. The total amount of pork, if we consider the data that I just showed you, the total I'll request you to mute yourselves, please. Try to mute yourselves so that we don't interrupt the session. So, like I was saying, that considering the data we just reviewed, the total amount of pork required by the East African region is around 230,000 tons. Now, if you considered animals of proper genetics, proper nutrition, proper management, kept by an average farmer, we will expect a killing out percentage of about 70 kilograms. You know, it is usually above this because animals go to the market 20 to 24 weeks at 100 to 110 kilograms. So you can receive more than 70 kilograms per carcass. Now, if we zeroed down and considered 70 kilograms per live animal as pork generated, you need about 3.3 million pigs. Now, if you need 3.3 million pigs, it means that to produce this, you need 125,000 sows. Now, I didn't want to give you data about the general population of pigs in the East African region. I didn't want to give you this for one main reason. We have a big challenge in the disintegration of this data. Some time back, I was complaining about the data released by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. There is no the data is not distinguished in terms of the production animals that we have in the country. We don't know the number of sows, we don't know the number of boars, and therefore, we don't know why the Uganda Bureau of Statistics says that we have over 7 million pigs as the population of pigs in the country. Somehow the data is vague. So I didn't want to share that. We have for Rwanda, for Tanzania, for Kenya, but it might not bring out a realistic picture. And because we are not dealing with that now, I chose to leave it out and concentrate on consumption. So if you have highly productive sows, 125,000 sows are enough to supply this market. If you're going to import these animals from let's say South Africa, coming to East Africa by air, the average expense for this would be $125 million. $125 million. Now, if you understand pig production properly, you know that for every farm established, you will need replacement sows. So if the total sow requirement in the region is 125,000 sows, it means that we need half of that, half of the 125, to replace the worn out sows annually. And that means 6,500 sows. So in total, we would need 187,500 sows. Now, if we are to import this from elsewhere, about $187 million would be spent. And now under this program, we want to bring this money back to the region. And how do we bring this money back to the region? Is by setting up reliable supply of both parent lines and commercial lines. When I talk about parent lines, I mean if you're not asking a question, please don't unmute yourself. I request you, if you're not asking a question, please don't unmute yourself. Okay, this is what I was meaning. If we create a reliable supply of parent lines in the East African region, and if we manage to create a reliable supply of commercial bull semen in the East African region, we would bring back about $187 million in the region per year. I think this is something that can, at the end of the day, support many pig farms in the region. The farms will become better, and of course, the farmers in the region will develop more than they are developed now. We send all this money. If you check the South African pig industry, you can see that the difference is very huge. It is not in any way comparable to our industry. And why? Because all these monies from the rest of Africa is sent to South Africa, because South Africa has the quality that is reliable. Performance can be guaranteed. So this is the same situation we want to create for the East African region. Now, look at this. If we had a sow, a parent sow like Selenis. Selenis is a blend of nucleus F1 lines. So if we have a sow like Selenis, you are expecting to win at least 14.8 piglets per liter average. And in a year, you're expected to win about 34.8 piglets in a year. All these are averages. Okay? You going to get piglets weighing about 1.4 kilograms at birth. What does this mean? It means less mortality. So less piglets are going to be lost at birth because they are born heavy. You have a sow that has 16 functional teats. Now, what does 16 functional teats mean? The 16 functional teats means that there is less need for fostering. The number of piglets this animal is able to litter is as well able to raise them until weaning. Okay, that's what it means. More functional teats, more space to nurse the piglets, and therefore less need for fostering. And you know, piglets that are not fostered, that grows on their mother's teats, you know, will grow stronger because there is no need for acclimatization. Everything is just naturally moving. Now, in the breeding of the Selenis, 55% of the focus is on the reproduction, is on the maternal focus. What does maternal focus means? The born alive, number of piglets born alive per litter. Average for nucleus is, for the Selenis is 17.5. The number of piglets weaned, the total number of piglets weaned per year, the ability to let down milk, the mothering ability, the temperament, and all these issues. Okay? But also, 45% of the focus in the breeding of the Selenis is put on the production side of the animal. So we can talk about growth and the carcass, because the slaughter animal is 50% the genetics of the mother and 50% the genetics of the commercial boar. Therefore, both the sow and the terminal boar contribute substantially to the quality of the fattening animal you're going to receive at the end of the day. Okay? So this kind of distribution of focus is very important. I can tell you, unfortunately, I didn't share this data here, but we can share some summarized data with the GGPs that we have in Uganda, in Tanzania, and in Kenya. We have been able to achieve up to 1,400 grams as average daily gain for majority of the animals. 1,400 grams. Now, this is what Nucleus says for the Selenis. You're expecting average daily gain of 950 to 1,000 grams per day. You're expecting FCR. FCR is the feed conversion ratio, the amount of food that you need to generate 1 kilogram of live weight. So for every 1 kilogram of live weight, you need about 2.2 kilograms of food. And the global FCR means when data is collected, like this program starting in East Africa, when we combine the data we have in East Africa, they combine the data in China, in Russia, in America, in all these countries where Nucleus has bases, we come up with the global FCR. The global FCR for the Selenis is 2.55, meaning that globally you need averagely 2.5 kilograms of food to raise 1 kilogram of live body weight in the Selenis sows. The lean meat percentage. Lean meat percentage means it's LMP. Since this is coming to East Africa, you should get used to these terms. ADG, FCR, LMP. LMP is lean meat percentage. And some people call it the lean meat potential. So with the lean meat percentage, we mean the total muscle minus fat minus bone. The amount of muscle that you get when these are subtracted is 60%. So you can see, most especially for those who are going to do microbreeding, like we will be discussing later, if you select off the females that are going for that are going to the production farms for people to produce pigs for slaughter, even the boars that you're left with are very, very ideal candidates for pork. When you slaughter them and take the meat to the market, nobody will complain. So you are 100% covered. You know, in this program, there are two approaches. The first approach is to select out the females. We have set selection criteria for the nucleus. So you select out the females that you're going to use for reproduction or that you're going to sell to farms that are producing pork. Okay. You can either euthanize. Euthanize means ending life for the males, or you can keep these males, fatten them for pork. So two issues happen here. If you choose to fatten these males for pork, you have to castrate them. We usually castrate them. The regulations requires that the males are castrated 1 week after birth. So when the piglets are born in 1 week, the piglets, the male piglets have to be castrated. Okay. So castrate them. You have to put aside a budget for fattening them up to slaughter weight, up to 100 kilograms. But there is another alternative, and the alternative is that you can euthanize them at birth. Euthanizing means that you end their lives. We don't want to call it killing. Ending their lives creates space, you know, in one way or the other is more advantageous, though it kills the economic value that you would have generated from the castrates that you take to market for meat. But it creates space for the female animals to enjoy the mother's teats. So meaning that you're going to produce more stronger piglets at the end of the day. And therefore, you get more chance of having majority of your piglets selected as Selenis to go to the pork producers. Hope I'm understood. And we should not forget that at the large weight and landless level, these animals are selected basing on their on the genomics. So it is the consideration is not only phenotypic, but also genomics is involved. So it is scientific breeding. And this same technology is extended right from France to the East African region. So this is pure breeding. And we can 100% be sure that the product that you're going to buy on the East African region, be it commercial bull semen, be it the Selenis parent line, be it the grand parent line for the microbreeders, will be of the equivalent quality to the animals that we receive from France. Now, let's look at the commercial lines. All this, don't forget, we are imagining that we brought this quality into the East African brock. Imagine we have the Selenis, purely performed, a parent line that is performing to the global standards. Imagine we have the parent line in the East African region? Are we going to spend a lot of money in importation again? I think the answer will be no. Shall we have challenges with accessing parent lines or accessing quality genetics, even to the smallholder farmers? I guess, again, the answer will be no. So we will have good access to quality parent lines in the East African region. And even the small farms will be more efficient because the sows used will be of good quality, of global standard in quality. And they as well be affordable because they are produced here. The cost of flight is not involved. And also the price is a little lower because they are locally produced. Okay. So let's look at the commercial lines. On the side of the commercial lines with the nucleus, we have 3 of them. And I will not hide it from you. The premium bull for nucleus is Piatrain, NN. This NN, someone from Tanzania was asking me a few weeks ago that what does NN means in the Piatrain. A long time ago, the Piatrain breed was known for stress. Okay, but today, all Piatrains NN produced are stress negative. When you meet a Piatrain NN, just know that these Piatrains are stress negative. They have no genes for stress at all. Okay, so that is what NN, capital NN means in the Piatrain. So if you see a Piatrain, small n, all Piatrain, small n, capital N, the one of small n, capital N means it's a carrier of the stress, and the one of small n has stress factors in it. So look at the commercial boas. If you considered using the Piatrain NN, the average daily gain is 1,065 grams per day. And the feed conversion ratio is 2.19. The lean meat percentage is 63.8. And the intramuscular fat is IMF percentage is 1.8. So it is the leanest animal among the 3 breed lines from nucleus. And the days you need to raise this Piatrain to market is 136 days to raise it to 100 kilograms. You need 136 days. Sorry about that. Okay, someone wants to join and they couldn't, so I guess that's why they are calling. Okay, sorry. I think everyone using the meeting ID and the passcode were not able to join the meeting. It's unfortunate. I didn't know how that happened. So sorry. If you have a friend, you can share you can share the link. I think it is more easier to join via link than to join via the code. And I apologize for that. Okay, I was saying.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Okay, I'll take it. Yes, go ahead, ask.
You just said something about the Peatrins. When it's N, there is no stress, and when it's small n and a capital N, there is stress. I'm a bit confused there. When we say stress in Peatrins, what do we mean?
Okay, I think describing the stress factors would take us another session, but all I want to confirm to you is that every Peatrain that comes with any N means that that Peatrain is stress-free. You know, this because commercial pig production is still a new thing in the East African region. But if you have experience with commercial production, you can understand that at some point in both the maternal, the reproductive herd and the commercial herd, an animal can drop dead instantly. Okay? An animal can get some small stress, maybe from heat or the poor feed, and it dies. Or something, you know, underscores its production. So stress leads, like it is in human beings, stress leads to less productivity, but in animals, it can even lead to death. But even in humans, it can lead to death. So this Peatrain has no stress factors. It is stress negative. In a layman's understanding, you can relate to those small examples that I gave for you to understand it better. But if there is need, we can dig more into the science of stress and the genetics of which one is a carrier, which one is negative, and which one is positive. We can do that later. Okay, Paul, let me allow you also ask the question before you proceed. You can unmute and ask. Paul, you're putting up your...
Yeah. I came a little bit late, but I also got interested with the stress aspect of it. And I think why I also want to understand it better, because this is something that the smallholder farmers encounter on a daily basis. So like the lady who asked the question, I was like, okay, what is Chris talking about when he's saying stress? You know, it's so my question was also along the same line. And I think, yeah, the response you've given really hasn't clarified it for me. But like you said, maybe if we can go back to it later, at a later time, then that would be interesting. But also, it's good to know that yes, the Peatrain that you're talking about has already been bred to resist the stress. But maybe to a smallholder that may not be able to you know, like go to the top lines or top breeds, it's nice to know the stress that we are talking about, and maybe somehow how to deal with it when you encounter. But you already said that's for another time, so it's fine.
Yeah, maybe I can expound a little. You see, the reason why these breed lines are expensive, and there is a reason why the reproduction of these animals is highly restricted, because these animals comes with a lot of promises. So the genetic company takes years testing and trying to verify whether what they are presenting to the market is actually right. So what happens in the African genetics market is that people pick animals from wherever. It is very easy to buy a non-certified peer train from the market. And in future, most especially when these animals start to come on market, you will as well, if you don't properly follow the structured market system to buy the terminal line, you will land on someone who will tell you that I'm selling the peer train NN, or I'm selling this kind of animal from Nucleus. Because as these animals come in the market, Africans are very cunning people. They'll try to find a way. So you can buy something from elsewhere, and then you fail to get the same performance that we are talking about. And maybe the reason as to why you're not getting what you're supposed to get is because those animals are stress positive. Or if they are not stress positive, then you get some irregular performance in the offspring, meaning that the parent, the boa you used, was maybe a carrier of the stress gene. And therefore, if it mated with another carrier, maybe the offspring is stress positive. And then you get the issues that I've been talking about. But if you source the genetics from the right source and for the right procedures means that the genetics should come with the necessary documentation. And there must be verification from the genetic source that actually the line of breeding of the breed line that you're buying is in line with that genetic company's breeding procedures. Because even in the microbreeding framework, Nucleus remains with the right to check everything that is happening in the breeding process of these animals. And the breeding process itself is guided exclusively by Nucleus itself. So this all brings us to the point that whatever you're getting is of consistent quality. Okay, we will discuss the genetics of that later. Let's move to the Juloc. Now, maybe before I move, okay, let me first discuss all the commercial, the terminal lines, and we come back to the point of discussion of why would someone choose the peer train NN instead of the Juloc? Why would someone choose the Juloc instead of the peer train NN? Why would someone choose the Vigor instead of the peer train NN? You know, if you're a good reader and if you've been following up what is happening in the genetics market today, you know that we have very many, a huge profile of synthetic boas. There are very many. But majority of the producers don't take an initiative of asking the genetic companies to explain to them why they created the breed line that they are selling to the market. Majority of the pig producers just follow bandwagon. Because my friend is using a Juloc, or because I heard from somewhere that a Juloc is a good animal, then I'll also use a Juloc. Because I heard that peer train is a good animal, then I'll use a peer train. But there are underlying factors that you must consider before you sell on the commercial board, the terminal line, that you're going to use at your farm. And I'll be explaining that later. Let me first go through all the terminal lines that we have with the Nucleus. So talk about the Juloc. With the Juloc, you have average daily gain of 960 grams per day, feed conversion ratio of 2.3, lean meat percentage of 60.6, intramuscular fat of 2.9%. And with the Vigor, you have average daily gain of 1,030 grams, feed conversion ratio of 2.25, the lean meat percentage of 62.7% and the intramuscular fat percentage of 2.2%. Okay? Now, we come back to the question of why would you take the Piatrain instead of a Duloc instead of a Viga instead of a Piatrain? These are the reasons. Some of these reasons are obvious. Okay, please go ahead and ask.
Oh, thank you. Before you proceed, I wanted to understand something. Down here, when you look at the Piatrain, it was saying days to 100 kilograms, it was 136 days. Now, when it comes to the Duroc and the Vigo, you've put there temperament, calm, very calm, intermediate. Like, is it say that there's no specific time for them to reach 100 kilos? Thank you.
I beg you, I didn't get the question, please.
Like, I wanted to know how long do these Durocs also take to get 100 kilos? Because for the Piatrain, it was clear.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay, so I think that's where I'm going. That's where I'm going. So
Okay.
That's where I'm going. If you look at the average daily gain of the Piatrain and the average daily gain of the Viga, you know, it means that it will take a little more time for the Duloc to go to the market. And you know, when you put the two, sometimes it challenges the customer or the farmer get challenged to see that the Duloc will take more time to go to the market. But of course, there are advantages, and these advantages are what I'm going to discuss, because each breed line, each commercial, each terminal line has some power against the other. So that's what we are going to talk about. In some, maybe it takes a little bit more time to go to the market, but it has more power over the other. So that's what we are going to discuss. And this is the mix that is missing in the East African genetics market. Because I can tell you what people do. Many call me, Chris, can you get me a Boer? And because the language is now changing rapidly, we recommend that you should at least use artificial insemination. You should use artificial insemination. There is no way, because each of these Boers are quite expensive. They are pricey. And if you're keeping 10 sows, 20 sows, why do you need a terminal line? Why do you need a Boer on farm? You know, why do you spend thousands of dollars to access a terminal line? This terminal line will land here at $2,500. Why do you need to spend all this money? Why don't you leave that responsibility to the Bostad to spend the money, acquire the Boer, then you go and access the Boer semen? Okay, these are the reasons as to why you would select one terminal line over the other. Now, when you look at the Piatrain, with the nucleus, the Piatrain is its premium. We call it its premium terminal line. This is the most efficient line. What you're seeing as average daily gain are just averages. But when you go into the reality, if you collected the data, compared the data from farm to farm, you would be hugely surprised with how the nucleus Piatrain adds on weight on a daily basis. It's hugely efficient. And when you look at its feed conversion ratio, you know, it is not in any way comparable to either the Duloc or the Viga. And when you look at its lean meat percentage, the yielding is too high. It's higher than the Duloc, is higher than the Viga. When you look at its intramuscular fat, the fat is lower. It's lower than the Duloc and it's lower than the Viga. But the Piatrain offspring is a highly sensitive offspring. if you want to get the best out of the trade, you have to carry out proper management. You must be sure that the workers you have at the farm are well trained. You have a consistent supply of feed that these animals need on a daily basis. You're not going to lack feed, or you're not going to imbalance the diet in any way, because the peer train doesn't care about that. You won't receive the metrics that we are talking about if your production is not consistent, if your management is not consistent, if your feeding, your health management, your housing system is not ideal for this animal to thrive as it is supposed to thrive. So if your farm is well set, everything is well managed, the peer train is the ideal candidate for you to go for. Now, when do you take a Julock? Like you may understand, some markets require intramuscular fat. And the reason is that intramuscular fat adds the flavor in a meat. So if you are in such a market that demands for intramuscular fat in meat, go for the Julock. A Julock is also a harder animal. So if you are that farmer with minimum standards of structures, with feeds that might go wrong at some point, someone who is interested in doing outdoor production, the Julock is the ideal candidate for you. Now, if you're a farmer who wants to mimic the performance of a peer train, okay, but your farm setup is not ideal enough to enable you get the best out of the peer train, go for the Vigor. A Vigor is a composite boa, call it a synthetic boa, which mimics the performance ability of the peer train. For it can endure some of the hard times, unlike the peer train. So if your the feed, the balancing is not good today, but gets scared tomorrow, the manager did a mistake today, but improves tomorrow, the Vigor can endure, the Julock can endure. The peer train may not endure such stress. I don't know whether the person who asked the question before I made this explanation is now okay. He has understood what they wanted to understand. Okay, and we should also note that most of this data is evaluated at 30 kilograms, from 30 to 115 kilograms. So for all these breed lines, you have the ability to go to market at 115 kilograms. Okay, now we have talked about the
Chris?
quality. Okay, please go ahead.
Chris, just a quick one,
Yes.
because I see under the slide it indicates that the data that you're sharing is from new class. It's a new class data from evaluation. So, what is the field experience?
Okay. For now, what we have in the region are great grandparent animals, and I can tell you we cannot base on it to conclude for the terminal line. The performance is too high because the breeding level is also too high. So we haven't yet gotten data from the lower end. I believe this will be available next year. For now, what we have as data is for the high-end animal, the great-grandparent animal. Just a moment, please. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, I'm back. So that is for you, Paul. We
Chris,
are,
bef-
yes, let's go ahead.
bef-
Yes.
before you move on, okay,
Yes.
so you say that we don't have the product yet in the market in Uganda, and your expectation is that it will be somewhere around next year. Do you have any specific dates where you think there'll be availability? And I know that maybe this question was probably answered when I was not there, or maybe it's coming later. What would be the cost? How would the cost look like? Especially for a farmer who wants the F1s and the Siemens.
Okay. Okay, we are going to talk about cost. Okay, maybe we can exhaust that already. For the terminal lines, you know, for your information, terminal lines are more or less like grandparents, because when we get the great-grandparents, we import the great-grandparent semen. Then what is produced between the GGP sow and the imported GGP semen straight away goes to the AI station. It is a terminal line. It's a commercial boer, but there is some selection process that takes place. We hope to breed the. By the way, again, for your information, okay, probably we'll discuss that later. We hope to breed the GGPs, both the maternal lines and the paternal lines in around December, January. And we hope for the first offspring to happen in East Africa around April. And the selection of commercial boers takes some time because there is need to study their ADG, the FCL, and you can't do this when they are still small. So this can be done later, so they can be on market at around 40, 50 kilograms. So that means that you will receive data about these animals most probably late next year or early the other year. But for now, what we have is data from the GGPs. We are hesitant to share the data because I've been sharing for most especially the production data, the ADG, the FCL for the maternal lines, and a little hesitant with sharing for the paternal lines because, of course, the paternal lines performs very higher than the maternal lines, and this might cause some confusion in the, among the pig farming community in the future, because a GGP cannot perform the same way a GP performs. You'll have some small percentage decline. So from GGP to GP to F1, there is some small percentage decline in performance. But on the on the maternal line, it is inconsequential. So that's why we've been sharing the data. Okay, but this information, we have a robust system for collecting information. In fact, there is no breeder one of the qualifications for selecting a CBC, a central breeding center, or a micro breeder is their ability to invest in both the breeding software, which is mainly for data collection, the traceability items, which is the working tags and the RFID tags, and the gadgets that are needed to make this usable. So we will be collecting quite a lot of data, and that data will be relayed to you when it is available. Okay, now, like I said, the East African region needs quality sows, quality parent lines. We need to make these parent lines more affordable to the average farmer. Today, if you want to import a parent line from outside the country, you're going to spend more than $1,000. So how can we bring this price down so that every farmer can afford purchasing this line? I can tell you, Paul, who wanted to know about the prices, the average cost for a younger F1 Selenis when production starts is $250. So a Selenis is going to be $250 if it is young. That one will be defined later when the price list comes out. And when it is grown up, it is going to be at a maximum of $500. So $500 means that we have cut cost from 1,000 to a half. And we are talking about a grown-up animal. If you're importing parent lines from South Africa via air, the best you can get is 40 kilograms. But what we are talking about now is an animal that is a few kilograms to the insemination weight. The insemination weight for the nucleus animals is usually 160 kilograms. So how do we make the Selenis, these parent lines, accessible and affordable? How do we make the boas, the commercial boas, accessible and affordable? And most especially, how do we make bull semen accessible and affordable to the East African pig producer? Now, I introduced to you the program named the Microbreeding Framework. Okay, I forgot to change to write this here. Should write it quickly. The program is called the Microbreeding Framework. Now, what do I mean with this term, the Microbreeding Framework? This is a breeding strategy that is going to channel genetics right from nucleus to the East African region. This is what is happening. Nucleus reserves the exclusivity to select and send GGP gilts and GGP semen to the central breeding centers. The central breeding centers are selected farms that are hosting the nucleus great-grandparent lines. We have a CBC in Uganda hosting the nucleus maternal great-grandparent lines, and that is called Jole Pig Farm. We have a CBC in Kenya hosting the nucleus commercial lines, commercial line females, and that is Ogal Farm. we have a CBC in Tanzania hosting the nucleus great-grandparent gilts, and that is called Lekezon in Mwanza. Okay, so this is the flow. The nucleus from time to time sends the central breeding centers, great-grandparent animals, both the great-grandparent maternal, which are large white and landless, the great-grandparent paternal, which are Pietrain, Nini, Jurok, and Viga. And the strategy of breeding these great-grandparent animals is by use of frozen GGP semen, again from nucleus. So everything at the central breeding center is imported. What does this mean? This means that the central breeding center does not reproduce GGPs, does not select GGPs, does not locally collect semen for GGPs. So importation of pigs is going to be left to the central breeding centers. They cannot reproduce GGPs, they cannot collect GGP semen because this is high-level breeding that requires a lot of work in testing of the DNA of these animals that are coming in production of grandparents. So East Africa does not have the capacity to do proper genomics that would lead to the proper selection of the GGP maternal and the GGP paternal lines. So that is the reason as to why the GGPs and the GGP semen is not sourced from within Africa, all cannot be reproduced from within. So what happens, the central breeding units produce the grandparents. So the product that the central breeding centers sell are the grandparent maternal lines. Now, these grandparent maternal lines goes to the micro breeders. Already in the 3 East African countries, except for Burundi, for Rwanda, for South Sudan, the central breeding centers are already running. The central breeding center in Kenya is already running. The central breeding center in Tanzania is already running. The central breeding center in Uganda is already running. Okay, so it is only producers in Rwanda, in Burundi, in South Sudan that can now show their interest in setting this program is so that in East still does as well. Because African regions, the East Africa. So the sorry about that. My network, I don't know what happened. It jumped off, but I'm back. Okay, So I was saying that the microbreeders receive the GP maternal lines from the central breeding units. These GPs are only given to the microbreeders and farmers who are going to do internal production. Because this is not, we don't own the intellectual property over these breed lines. Those who are going to do internal production buy them of a contract, and those who are going to do microbreeding also buy them over a multiplier and commercialization contract. The boers go to the Bostad. The Bostad is tasked with producing semen for the market. Now, in Uganda, the Bostads are covered up, but we have some space for Kenya, Tanzania, for Rwanda, for Burundi, for South Sudan. Uganda is already covered up, but Kenya, Tanzania, some parts in Kenya are also covered up, but there are still some space in some areas in Kenya. And there are still some space in some areas in Tanzania. For Tanzania, for Kenya, I know Nairobi, I know Siaya. For Tanzania, I know Dar es Salaam covered up, Mwanza covered up. I think there is also another region called Mosh, something like that. So if you want to set up Bostads in other places, because Kenya and Tanzania are huge countries, don't hesitate, but there are some areas that you can't set up because there are already people who are building Bostads in those areas. And the idea is to make Bost semen more accessible to the producer. You don't want Bost semen to move more than 2 hours from the Bostad, from the distribution center to the farm. The longest period should be 2 hours from the center to the farm. Anything that goes beyond 2 hours is something that we want to limit. Okay. So the GP Patano goes to the Bostad. That's the Pietrain NN, the Viga, the Julok. Yes, Paul, please go ahead.
Just a practical question. You said Uganda is already covered, but I don't know about northern Uganda. Maybe you can provide that information and we know, because now you're talking about 2 hours, and I don't know any Bostad in northern Uganda.
Paul, I'm going to give you more information about this.
Okay.
We talk, it's been a long time, but we can access each other. So I'm going to give you more information about this because these things I've not yet put in public, but I can give you information, no problem. Yeah. Okay, I'll do that later. So that is it. And now, this is what happens. When the GPs goes to the microbreeders, they produce the Selenis. Okay? And when the GP Patanos goes to the Bostad, semen is produced. Now, the microbreeders sell the Selenis to the commercial pork producers who will buy semen from the Bostad to breed their slaughter animals. And this is how the whole program runs. The CBC sells the GPs. At the microbreeder level, the Selenis is produced. Then the Selenis is sold to the commercial farms to be used for producing slaughter animals. I can tell you when this program is fully enrolled, there will be no need for you to use an F2 for reproduction. The F1 will be accessible and affordable for you to use. Now, this is what happens in all genetic companies. Okay? At the top here, we have the GGP. This is the breeding pyramid. These GGPs are owned, like what we receive in the central breeding centers, are a part of the population of animals that Nucleus is also using to produce GPs in France. So the GGPs are selected at that topmost level. And phenotypic selection is less at that level. Majority of the work relates to the genomics of that particular animal. So at that level, the GGPs are produced and selected. Okay? At this lower level, the GP large white is crossed with the GP landless. And at the pork production level, the Selenis, which is the F1, is crossed with the terminal, call it terminal commercial boar, to produce animals for slaughter. In an organized market, this is how the pyramid should look like. In Uganda, we pick animals from here, bring them to here, and breed them. Why do we do that? The access to quality parent lines is still very expensive. Today, if you're assessing these locally selected F1s with farmers who imported animals from choice years back, the best price you can get in the market is 1.7 million for the 8 to 12 weeks piglet. 1.7 million. And these days I've been exchanging with some of my friends selling F2, because one of my friend who I believe is in this meeting wanted to do fattening, and he tasked me with the job of finding some piglets for him to fatten. Now, I didn't know that things have gone worse. I called some friends and asked them for F2s. And the best price I could get for an F2 is 400,000. I quarreled with everybody I called. So why should an F2 piglet be 400,000? It's too high for that level of animal. But you can't blame anybody. Every average farmer who cannot afford an F1 will run to an F2, because an F2 is far better than unidentified genetics. It has its own issues, but it is far better than unidentified genetics. So this is what we have to stop. And we have to work together to bring this to reality. This is the flow I already explained. Nucleus does the supply of the GGPs to the central breeding centers. Then the central breeding centers, of course, we already have Jole Pig Farm in Uganda, Ogal Farm in Kenya, Lake Zone Farm in Tanzania. So the central breeding center multiplies the GPs, sell the GP to the micro breeders who produce the Selenis, and sell the Selenis to the pork producers. Okay? And that's how the central breeding farms are positioned in East Africa currently. So now here is the business. And we already talked about it. The business opportunities that this program brings to you includes the production of the Selenis and the production and sale of commercial bull semen. I'm talking about commercial bull semen because the production and sale of the GP maternal semen responsibility was left with the central breeding units. So the central breeding centers will sell the GP semen to the micro breeders. So the role of the nucleus affiliated bull studs will be to sell commercial bull semen. And you're supposed to keep all the 3 boas because farmers' needs are different. So you need all the lines in the bull stud. What do you need to have this done? The requirements. You need pig houses. Now, when we talk about pig houses, I think you understand that these must be properly fenced. They should be constructed in a way that allow efficient air movement, and they should be in line with the necessary biosecurity protocols. And these pig houses must be isolated from residential areas. Remember, these are breeding farms. Any small mistake can cause trouble to the whole chain of production in the country. So you need to situate them in areas isolated from residential areas, places isolated from other farms, places isolated from nearby abattoirs. We are talking about abattoirs, not only pig abattoirs, but all abattoirs, including beef abattoirs, cattle abattoirs, whatever that you can mention. As long as it is an abattoir, the breeding center, pig house should be situated at least 5 kilometers away from such places. Labor. With labor, you need at least 1 specialized staff. What I'm talking about is for both the micro breeders and the bull stud. You need 1 specialized staff, and all your workers must be farm residents. They should not be moving out of the farm and coming back. They should only move out of the farm when it is their leave. So if it is their leave, they can move out of the farm. But if it is the farm, and when their leave is over, they should go through the necessary biosecurity measures before they are allowed into, they're allowed to attend to the pigs again. The legality. You need at least 1, you need signed multiplier contracts. That is for the micro breeders. And you need bull semen production and commercialization contract. Unlike the micro breeders who are going to produce the F1s, the sale of the bull semen is left to the bull stud. It's not directly managed by Prime Pork or Genomex in Tanzania or Gulf Farm in Kenya. It is managed directly by the bull stud, but Prime Pork still regulates to ensure that there is no compromise made. The initial stock, the minimum stock you need is 50 GPs. Sorry, I didn't mention for the boas, but the boas you need a minimum of 15. But all this can happen gradually. You can stock the GPs in phases, but the minimum number of GPs that you can buy is 10. If you're going to be sourcing them locally, and if you're importing, the minimum number is 5. Why? We want to be sure that the person who is taking these animals have enough potential to manage them. So the business requires a lot, and therefore you need to have the ability to properly manage it. So we can't sell one GP except if someone is going to do internal multiplication. For people doing internal multiplication, you can buy a few animals, no problem. But for someone who is buying as a micro breeder, there is no chance for buying below 5 animals when you're importing, and there is no chance for buying below 10 animals if you're buying them locally. There are other requirements. This includes the breeding software. It is a requirement. You need to have it, whether you're a bastard or a micro breeder. You need identification and traceability equipment. The identification of animals in this program is unique. We have 2 identification and traceability strategies. The first strategy is by use of what we call the working tags. The working tags comes from France, and they are, I'm forgetting, but they are either 15 or 14. They are 17. They are 17 character. They have the farm code. They have the country code. So for Uganda, you will see UG. For Tanzania, you will see TZ. For Kenya, you will see KE. And the farm code. So after the country code, what comes next is the farm code. So each farm, whether microbreeder farm or central breeding farm, is designed a unique code. Then what comes next is the breed line. So that tag will have the breed line as well. It will have the year in which that particular breed line is born, and it will have the number of that breed line in the sequence of the production of that particular country. So next we have what we call the RFID tag. So your GP and your F1 will come with the 2 tags. One of the tag is a working tag, and the other tag is an RFID tag, the radio frequency identification. This one is detected by a machine. Now, if you happen to buy an F1 or a GP and you complain that it is not performing as per the described performance indices under the described conditions, we can trace back and get to understand whether this animal was selected, because selection of these breeding animals is done straight by nucleus. So nucleus will put a comment in the tray for lines of all selected weeks back and find out whether this animal was selected or it was sold from the black market, meaning it wasn't a selected animal. Okay, I think I've exhausted my presentation. I want to welcome anybody who has a question. Now, for purposes of order, I will request you to to just tap in that icon for a raised hand so that we manage and avoid confusion. But if there is no question, I'll be glad to as well conclude the meeting. I think I should
Chris.
say that I was very
Chris.
efficient.
Chris,
Okay. Paul, please, go ahead.
Chris,
Yes, please.
hello?
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Chris, mine is not a question, but just a word of appreciation. I think you've been very clear and precise, and I've received a lot of new information
Paul, I
today.
think your network, we didn't get you initially, so I think you're going to ask again. Your network got jammed.
Is it fine now?
Paul, I think let's come back to you when the network gets. No, it is still breaking. But also, members, you can put your questions in the chat. If the network is not good, please feel free to put the questions in the chat. Still no problem. Okay, let me ask iPhone. iPhone, can you please ask? Unmute yourself and ask. Probably iPhone is not there. Dr. Tugume, please.
Thank you so much for this great presentation. It's really enriching, and being one of the upcoming farmers, I've learned a lot on this from your presentation. Just wondering whether you could share those draft kind of agreements if, let's say, a farmer wants to do a modification within the farm to see whether the condition suits to some of us. Thank you.
Yeah. What you do, just drop me a WhatsApp. Just send me a message. That's my WhatsApp number. If you can, write me an email. I would prefer email, but I can as well share the draft on WhatsApp. No problem. I will do that, I promise. So I don't know whether iPhone is back now. Huh?
Yes, Mr.
Okay.
Chris,
Please go ahead.
what I want to know is that in pig breeding, where is it advisable to source the funding?
I beg your pardon?
The funding, FUNDING, funding for funds for the what is
Okay. The funding for
the pig breeding system?
the business.
Yes, where is it advisable, please?
Yeah, but you can source for funding from various places, including banks. I see in Tanzania, their banks are hugely flexible when it comes to agriculture. So we can support in the development of the plan if you need assistance. We can try to help in putting together the figures and to show the cost-benefit analysis so that you can go ahead and source for resources.
But can somebody set a farm in Uganda when the person is not a native in Uganda?
I beg your pardon?
Can somebody set the farm, the breeding farm in Uganda, if he's not a native in Uganda?
Can
If you are native in Uganda, can you set a farm there?
I go to right? Can someone set up a farm? So can you set up a farm in Uganda if you're not a Ugandan? That's the question.
Yes. That's the question.
I'm sorry, I can't. Maybe because but can put the let's go to the one to the
Yes, Mr. Mulindwa. Hello. Hello, Mr. Mulindwa.
I think Chris has dropped out.
Well, that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and then
I have some few questions for him.
yeah, I guess I think he will come back.
Okay, can hang on. Let me hang on.
Yeah.
maybe the rain is interrupting the network. John, iPhone, please go ahead and ask.
Oh, yes, Mr. Mulindwa, thank you very much for having this meeting, making sure this meeting takes place. And I want to thank you again for, you have been a resource to me for a long time, ever since I started, I ventured into pig farming. I think I need to look for you one of these evenings and we have a one-on-one discussion. That said, I want to ask you, I wanted some details about Jore Farm. I'm sorry I joined a bit late. You could have discussed these issues before I joined. One was, is the location, it is about Jore Farm. Has Jore Farm started this business, the location, if one is interested, maybe getting semen. And another thing is, are they in production or in the pig stats for semen? If you could give me those details, their location, the type of business, either whether it is breeding or bull studs, and yeah, if they're in production, so that one can we can see how we can link up with them or liaise with them. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Cyril. Jole is starting production next year. So currently, there is nowhere you can source for the nucleus GPs in the country. And Jole is producing maternal lines. So it has both the GP large weight and the landless semen. The GPs will be in the market next year. And the farm is located in Mityana. But you might not get to go to the farm, though you should know that the breeding arrangements are done from Mityana. Later, you will have semen from a different company called Hadspal Enterprises. For Hadspal, the semen production will start next year because it is receiving BOAs by end of this year. By the way, for all countries in the major East African bloc, the major East African countries, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, semen from the 3 nucleus BOAs will be available next year. There is a consignment of BOAs coming in East Africa. end of November. So those boas will be ready for semen collection sometime next year, before April. Okay, hope I answered you. Let's now listen to Mati Jose.
Yes, thank you so much, our facilitators, for today and for the great opportunity and learning experience. It's been a good learning session. So my question is, I'm Joseph from Kenya. So my question is, if we are an organized group somehow, do you have do you conduct training sessions for a group? Maybe you can start the farm as a group, because we are an organized group somewhere. So I'm asking if you offer the training services. Yes, that's my question.
Okay, so if the training is in relation to the microbreeding framework, we don't even charge, but you cater for flight and accommodation. That's your responsibility. But there is no professional charge. There is nothing. So what you have to do is to ensure that either myself or someone else will find a way of coming to your place and coming back to where they are coming from. And also they'll find accommodation and meals. That's all we would require from you, but we do that. And if you're interested in that, you can drop me an email, you can drop me a WhatsApp, we can further the discussion. Let's now hear from Mr. Bosco Midra. Mr. Bosco, I think your network has a problem. We can't get you. I think we will come back to you when the network gets better. Paul, I don't know whether we can, let's hear from Pius first. Pius, please unmute and ask. Okay, as Pius is preparing to unmute, people were asking what is TRES. Could you share this presentation? Yes, Paul, I'll share with you. No worries. But I think I can even share on WhatsApp. So just in case, you can drop me a WhatsApp, I'll be able to share the presentation. Can someone, Pius, please, when you're ready, you can just go ahead and ask her. I'll stop talking. Can someone set up a farm even if you are not a native Ugandan? Yes. Yes, you can. You can set up. Many foreigners have farms here, so you can set up. Yes, please, go ahead. Okay, I request that you keep us posted on the progress with the nucleus building. Yes, I'll do that, Paul. Okay, Timothy, the expected prices, the price ranges for the Solenis is $50 to $500. $250 to $500. $500 is for grown-up Solenis, and $250 will be for younger Solenis, most probably 8 to 12 weeks. And for those who are doing microbreeding, a GP is $1,000. $1,000 per GP. What would be the price of commercial semen? Now, we are looking at making commercial semen as affordable as possible. So I want to communicate the prices now because discussions are still ongoing and surveys are still ongoing on the cost of production. So I request that I share information about the cost of semen later. But trust me, it will be as affordable possible. Okay, let me hope we've exhausted every question. Let me know if there is any that is not attended to.
Chris,
Not
my
yet,
hand is
Mr.
up.
Mlindwa.
Okay, let's first hear from the lady. Then I had two voices, one from a lady and another one from a man. So let the lady talk first, then the gentleman comes next.
Chris, thanks so much for the presentation. I've learned a lot. I just have one question. There is an Asian that asked
Yes.
about if you can help with funding and all that, and you said that you can help with basically putting together paperwork of how much it will cost to set up the breeding farm, what's the cost implication, and basically also profit. Is that something? I don't know if I misheard it, or is that something you can do?
Your network is not good, but let me hope I got you right. It's not at a fee. It is free of charge. So most of the work that relates to the program, the technical support is for free. We don't charge you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Yes. So
Also,
you
the
just let me know
presentation, where can
we'll
we get it?
organize. Yes. So the
Yes, Mr. Mlindwa, mine was like a request, basically.
your network is not good, but if I got
Mine?
you right, if you need
Hello, Mr. Mlindwa. It appears your network doesn't like me. Whenever I have something to say, your network goes off. Hello, Mr. Chris.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Chris. And the entire meeting.
Yeah.
Am I audible enough? Am I? Hello,
Yes.
Mr.
Hello.
Mlindwa. Yes. This is a request. I don't know whether I'm asking for too much because it is about marketing, and I don't know
Yeah.
whether that is your niche. I would request that at some point you also organize for us maybe a meeting that looks at marketing and potential buyers of these products, because we invest a lot in buying, procuring those animals, raising them up, putting them in proper structures. But at the end of the day, the market that we have is really not the best, if in quotes, meaning that these are small butchers that want to maximize their profits, giving us a small margin if anything is left for us. So I would request at some point you also organize a meeting, if I'm not asking for too much, with the potential market so that we can know how to access proper market. And that one will motivate us definitely to go higher. Thank you.
That's noted, sir. So basically, you're talking about the pork market. That's noted. We'll see
Yes,
how
yes,
to
the pork
handle it.
market, the pork market.
Okay, okay. Okay. So,
Mr. Chris Mlindwa.
yes, you talk like Pius.
Yes, this is Pius.
Yes, Pius. Nice to hear from you, Sebo.
Asante. Thank you for the information. For
Yes, please.
me, what you
Okay.
have been sharing,
Mm.
which normally the level of expertise do you need to work with those animals?
The level of expertise.
Of expertise, yes, because those animals I see, someone may invest his money,
Yeah.
but if he has some level of expertise, or if he's not
Yeah.
willing to if he's not willing to hire someone with lots of experience, many things may go wrong.
Yeah.
So how are you going to control that? And would you give trainings, or people with already much experience will be sourced from maybe somewhere, or you can highlight about that? Because management is very, very, very key.
Yeah,
You
you're
may
very
have
right.
good genetics, you may have the monies, but if you don't have someone to run that very high level, those high level animals, you're bound to fail. So you can throw some light up about that.
Yes. Initially, what we are looking at are experienced people. If you saw in my presentation, I indicated that you need someone who is specialized in this, because you cannot use anybody to manage such kind of genetics and the systems of breeding. We may end up spoiling everything. So there is a minimum level of expertise that is required before any microbreeder or Bostad can be operational and selling products under the program. So later, what we think is working together with the different bodies, both in animal production and veterinary, because as you may know, Pius, there are many animal production professionals and veterinarians who lack the crucial information about commercial pig production and the management of these high-level genetics. They know us, but they lack the art and the realistic side of running these high-level farms. So we will be doing trainings in future. This will not start now, but in future we will be doing trainings to ensure that we have enough personnel to manage generally the project, the program.
Thank you, sir. Well noted.
You're welcome. Thank you. For the presentation, you can send me your email address or drop me a WhatsApp message. Paul is asking, do you have farms that you recommend where we can get Selenis gilts? This one we will put the information in public later next year. Henry is saying thanks a lot for this training. Uganda. I'm planning to leave office and summary. Whom can I consult if I want construct a modern pig house, including biosecurity features and waste management? You can drop me an email or a WhatsApp. I'll share contacts. Thank you so much for your time and knowledge shared with us today, brother. You can share with me today's presentation. Please send me a WhatsApp message, Timothy. It will be easier for me because I might lose the chat. I thank you so much, everybody who managed to take part in this meeting. We had to end the meeting at 4, but we extended for some 11 minutes. We will be announcing more engagements in the future regarding nutrition and many other aspects. Don't forget, for Ugandans, that we distribute the Q-Feed concentrates on the Ugandan market. So genetics, nutrition, you're fully covered. Until we meet again, I wish you a nice weekend. Christopher Mlindwa is my name. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye, and thank you for.
Bye.